We just got done watching the second episode of Grimm, and I have to say, I really liked it.
It's really good.
I liked the first episode too, but I like the second episode even more. The episode starts off with a quote from Goldilocks. I feel like they give you the framework of Goldilocks, but then they do something different with it.
That's true.
And it's crazy because it's like they set it up that we're expecting the original story to play out, and they just totally changed the story. It's something that I never would have expected.
Yeah, and then they really show Goldilocks as a criminal. Because in the fairy tale, she's not a criminal, but just like some dumb kid. But yeah, so I thought it was a nice twist.
Yeah, it was.
Talking about the quote, when I read that, I started thinking about how many Grimm fairy tales are there, and is this show going to run out of stories to talk about?
I was thinking the exact same thing.
But after I thought about that, and then they showed the totem pole, and then how they were talking about mythology in another culture, and then I thought maybe that's a good way to head too, because if they start talking about fairy tales around the world, then you have endless amounts of stories, and then
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Oh, okay, really?
Yeah.
Because then it could be like a teaching tool, and then we start learning about cultures around the world. And I don't think that they have to be like all blatant, like, oh, this is a story from Asia, and like start explaining stuff to us. Because I think the quote strategy is really good in this series. Because then, even though I already know the Goldilocks fairy tale, I still felt like looking it up just to know the Grimm version of it. So if they do fairy tales from around the world, then it'll make viewers want to look those stories up too.
That's true. I was thinking the exact same thing. So yeah, that's cool.
But
the same thing.
That being said, I feel like they could easily stretch out these stories, because I'm watching this series, I don't expect them to solve the case at the end of every single episode.
That's true. I was thinking, I agree with you on that, because I thought, oh no, they solved the case in the first episode. It seemed a little too fast, right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe they just did that for the first episode to show us like the format of the series. But yeah, if they're gonna keep doing that, then like you said, they could have episodes on one case, right? What I think they're doing with it though might be what they did with the X-Files. Because with the X-Files, you mentioned that last time, it was like it gave you the X-Files episodic feel.
Yeah.
And I think that if they go with that, then they still might have material, even if they solve a case every episode. Granted, in X-Files, it kind of started out like that, and then it started to stretch out more because they were focusing on the mythology of the show towards the second part. I feel like Grimm is gonna do that. They're also surrounding it around his mythology.
Yeah.
Who are the Grimms? And then the mythology of each of the characters that he has to encounter.
Yeah, that's true. When I was watching this episode, I was thinking to myself that Nick's mythology is becoming more important to me than the actual fairy tales. The fairy tales is just a good way of tying it all together. Right.
I totally agree. I'm more interested in learning about Nick's past. And I think that I'm starting to bond with him as he's discovering his past and what he has to do. Like, we're also going along with him on it. And I think that's important for us to get into it.
Yeah, they had, and this episode, they had some really great suspense sequences. Like, even just the opening scene, it's like they had so many false moments of something bad happening, like something bad might happen.
Right.
But it worked really well. I liked it.
I did too. I mean, I was kind of feeling like, oh no, it's so like
cliche and
yeah,
it's
and
cliche scary teenage movie where the guy and the girl are making out and then you're like, did you hear something?
yeah.
No, nothing.
And we kept saying, oh no, they're gonna get killed here, or oh no, they're gonna get killed here, but then they caught us off guard, and it was totally not what I expected it to be. But it was very interesting how they worked that in, and I like the theme of mythology, especially in this episode. Like they had the mythology of the bears.
Yeah.
And I like also how their name is significant.
Yeah.
Like the brothers Grimm were German, right? So it makes sense that Nick's family is German.
Yeah.
If they're going along with that mythology too. And also the names that they come up with for the bad guys are also significant German terms. Like I think the one for this episode was Jägerbar. And when you look that up, it means hunter bear.
Yeah, they're being very smart.
Right, it's
the writers are being extremely smart.
Yes, you can tell and you can appreciate that they have put a lot of thought into this. It's not just, hey, let's put a bunch of stories together and just center it on fairy tales, but it was more like, how are we gonna work these in together to make a complete story that makes sense and it takes into account history and is gonna bring us to some kind of like interesting conclusion in the future.
Well, just personally, I wish that they could give Nick's character and his partner, his cop partner, Hank, I wish they could give them more authentic cop lingo. Because they seem a little bit too lax when they're talking to suspects or to victims. Like, they're saying stuff like, hey, did you see these guys?
Right, I didn't think about that. I mean, I think they've put a lot of effort into making creating the authenticity of the mythology behind the Grimm fairy tales, but you're right, they should also work on the authenticity of the characters, right? I mean, apart from the mythology, like, yeah, he's a cop. It's a gritty show, so they could take some of that grittiness that Law and Order has. You know,
that was maybe because I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm just used to hearing cops on Law and Order.
Right.
Maybe that's what I'm trying to listen for.
Right. But you're right. I mean, you can expect it to be realistic, even if they are funny guys.
The show also is doing an interesting horror/comedy slant. like that scene when Eddie is fighting the two bad guys in the hospital basement. But I think they went too far when Eddie ripped the guy's arm out. I mean, in fairness, we did laugh at it.
Because it was so awkward.
Yeah. Well, personally, I was laughing because it was funny how he says, oh, that went a little too far. It was really grotesque.
Yeah.
And I think it's because although he was being beaten, I didn't really feel like his life was in danger. I felt like they were just two thugs teaching him a lesson. So him pulling off the guy's arm was just too much.
Yeah, that was...
I felt bad for the bad guy.
Could you say that was overkill?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been like he beat him up really bad and he was like, well, that's not what I was going for, right?
Yeah, see, because then it would be that internal struggle of him trying to stop himself from doing bad stuff, even if it is against a bad guy. Right. So that, if Eddie had just overly beat them up, then I think that would have been a better...
Like, good enough.
Yeah.
Like, that was enough. Like, we didn't have to see that kind of, like, that level of violence.
Yeah.
Where, body parts are being taken off.
Yeah.
Because you had mentioned, and you're going to make this point later, that the show is moving towards some... Even though it's gritty, there are moments when elegance could shine through. And I feel like with Eddie's character, he is the comic relief. You know, he's the crazy character, and we like him. He's funny. But there could still be an elegance about him as well.
Yeah, this could have been a moment to show his more human side.
Yeah, and it takes away from the seriousness of the show. I know they're trying to put in some humor, but the humor could be well done.
Yeah.
And in this case, like last time the humor was well done when he rolled out of the window and he was just like, you know, hey, you know, like teaching Nick a lesson and then like, want to go grab a beer? That was funny. Yeah. You know, like shows his character and also like just gives some comic relief, right? But in this case, I felt like it, like you made a good point about it, detracting from his character of a person striving to be good. But also, I think it's taking away from the grittiness. Like, yeah, it's gritty, but then it's not serious. Yeah. It's like something that would happen in a corny horror movie. You know, like, oh, oops, you know, my bad. And that's not...
Yeah, that's not the point of his character.
Right, and it didn't sync with the show. Yeah. That's not the kind of show that it's purporting to be, what it's proved to be so far. Yeah, so I think that is the only place that I would make a serious complaint about. Yeah. Because everything else was well done. Yeah.
And in general, Eddie's just, the guy who plays Eddie is a good actor. All his comedic lines, he delivers them well. Right. And his character also, in general, is a good character. But this scene just killed it for me.
Yeah, I think he saved it the way he delivered that line. He saved it, but just the way it was done. Yeah.
It was pretty random.
Yeah, it killed it, you know. It's just like that, you could tell that didn't belong. Yeah.
So talking about the elegance that could come out of this show, I liked the part when they show Nick's aunt dying in his arms. Yeah. It was a very dramatic moment. I think, though, that something was a little bit lacking. Because although I felt sad and it was a very beautiful shot, I wasn't quite there yet at, you know, shedding a tear.
Yes, I agree with you. I think the problem with the aunt's character are the lines she's given and the times when she says them. I think her character is awkward. Yeah. I mean, I like her character, and she's important. She's very important in the show. But it's so awkward how she was fighting him. She had enough strength to fight him. And none of the people were around helping.
Yeah, I kept thinking, nobody's gonna help her.
You would think that somebody would at least jump in and be, like, just trying to, like, kick him out of the way or something, you know? They're just like, oh, hey, get security. And, you know, that was just an awkward scene. Yeah. Like, if they take away the awkwardness...
maybe that's why the moment when she died didn't seem dramatic enough.
It's just for them to be so far in the middle. We're just watching them in the middle, and there's nothing going on around them.
It would have been nice if they intercut shots of Nick trying to get to the hospital.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Because it was pretty random how he just shows up. Because I forgot that he was on the way to the hospital.
Me too.
So then he should, after Eddie calls him and says that his aunt's in danger.
We could have seen him driving to the hospital, maybe.
Yeah, and I think it could be shot more cinematically. It's all the shots are very far off and detached.
Right. One thing that I wanted to comment on was the whole idea of respecting your ancestors. I love themes, but I don't like themes that are thrown at you or given to you with neon lights. When the mom was talking about respecting your ancestry, I thought that's an interesting point because they're a family, you know, and she's into history and they collect artifacts and stuff. But then I liked how they kept connecting. Later on, it was like Nick was thinking about his ancestry too. True. And then in the end, it didn't hit us over the head with it, but I liked how the father of the Jaeger bars said, it's really hard to forget your history, and you don't have to forget yours. I thought that was an interesting point to make. And again, tying the fairy tales to historical documents.
Mm-hmm.
I like the whole play of like the mythology, history, ancestry all coming together.
Mm-hmm. And then
It's
it's
really
good
interesting.
that comment came up too for Nick, because before all of this, he didn't really have the history. So it's kind of ironic that the father of the Jaeger bars would say that line to him, because he doesn't know his history yet. Okay, so some nitpicky stuff. What's up with the opening sequences for Grimm and Once Upon a Time? They're pretty lame. I just wish they had something more dramatic for it. That's all I can say. Oh, and then in the beginning of the show, they have the cast and crew titles over the images.
That killed it.
They're really distracting, and then I thought they were like subtitles.
Me too. I thought they were subtitles too. I was like, why is it like right under in the middle? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they weren't really integrated artistically or whatever. That would have been better if they did that. And then personally, I think that the Nick character, he looked better when he was disheveled. Because when he's too manicured, I don't think like epic fighter of evil.
There has to be some greediness about him. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Some greediness about him, right? Yeah. I think that's a valid point.
His aunt looks pretty greedy. So that's why I believe that she could fight somebody on her dying last breath.
That's true. Remember last time we were confused about like how important is his girlfriend if she's not being shown?
Mm-hmm.
I like how maybe we just meant to focus on. I take that back. Maybe we were just meant to focus on him on the first part. It's just that it would have been nice to have her included because it's part of his character.
Yeah, and people are asking him to give her up already, and we don't even know her yet. But
yeah, we don't know how much that's going to affect him.
Yeah, they have a little cute relationship in this episode.
Yeah, they have some nice moments. So it's kind of nice. It's good to see her, to finally see the fiance or girlfriend. I don't know if he's had a chance to ask her since the last episode. I think it's weird how he tells his aunt, "You're all I have left." Like,
yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, wait a minute.
What about your girlfriend? Okay, so the aunt says, you have to hunt down the bad ones just like your ancestors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it ties to what the Jaeger bar father said, like, it's hard to forget your history, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're just trying to respect their ancestors, and he has to respect his ancestors too by following in their footsteps, I guess, and fighting the bad guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just really liking this whole idea of tying the fairy tales to a historical document, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like these things have been written down. Then I feel like if it's the case that he has to follow his ancestors, and like the Jaeger bars, they want to follow their ancestors, and I feel like it complicates how we see the bad guys. Because if they are stuck having to follow their stories as well,
mm-hmm.
you know, if he can't change his story and they can't change their story, then it's hard to vilify them. What they're doing seems wrong, right? By everything that we know,
mm-hmm.
you know, it's wrong to do these bad things. But then, if they have to do it, it's something that's it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's hard to vilify them. Mm-hmm. It complicates how we... Remember last time we said the good and the bad should be distinct in a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. So they're distinctly bad. We know that. But then it's hard to make a judgment on them when they throw these things in, like the history. One other thing I wanted to say about the whole idea of one having to fulfill one story. So the question comes up of, can a person shape his or her own story? Right? So can Nick, does Nick have to be like what Grimms always were? Mm-hmm. Or it seems like he can't change his history. But then we have Eddie, who complicates that idea, because he's trying to change his own story, right? Like, he's working hard to be good. And so I like this whole idea that they're presenting us with, like, are the fairy tales always gonna endure? Or is Nick going to change them somehow? And in this episode, I feel like there's a hint that like they can coexist. The fairy tale characters can coexist somehow, because he worked with the father of the Jaeger bars. They worked together.
That's true.
And they succeeded in stopping something really bad from happening. So maybe it would be nice to see that, like somehow them being able to coexist.
I like it. I was just thinking right now, maybe maybe not even a problem, but maybe why I'm not liking Nick's look is because he reminds me of Superman.
He does. Every time I see him, I think of Superman too. Seriously. Yeah, so looking forward to next week's episode.
Yeah, I like this series. I hope it keeps getting better.